Now, today's topic is not an easy one to swallow. It's going to probably ruffle your feathers the wrong way. And anyway, I'm going to teach it. God is the source of all authority. And we've already seen in our last lesson that the definition of lawlessness is the hidden principle of rebellion against constituted authority. Now, how does witchcraft enter a person? Remember the prophet Samuel, he was speaking to Saul and he told him in 1 Samuel 15 verse 23, he said, listen, rebellion is the sin of witchcraft. So if you rebel, you are opening a door to witchcraft. Stand against any form of authority and you will attract a spirit of witchcraft. God is the source of all authority and he has direct authority over each of our lives. But he also works through delegated authority. I used to have authority in a school. I was in charge of various things in school. For instance, the science department, and I had 10 people working for me, 8 teachers and 2 technicians. I didn't do all the work. I delegated it. I wouldn't survive if I did it all myself. And God delegates authority. And the Apostle Paul explained this in Romans chapter 13. Not a very favourite passage that's not hardly taught in church. Let's have a look at it in detail. Verse 1, 13 verse 1. Let every person be loyally subject to the civil authorities. And what do I mean by civil authorities? We'll look in detail in a minute. I'm talking about police, traffic wardens, people like that. No authority exists except it comes from God by his permission, and those that exist do so by God's appointment. So when you look at that policeman or that magistrate or that traffic warden, who's telling you shouldn't have been parking there, God appointed that person to do that job. Therefore, if we resist and set ourselves up against the authority, we resist what God has appointed. That's serious. And he arranged it in divine order. And those who resist will receive the penalty. If you park in the wrong place, you get a fine. And you receive the penalty. If you don't have a license, you'll drive without a license, you'll get a penalty. For civil authorities are not a terror to people of good conduct, but to those of bad behaviour. Would you have no dread of him in authority? If you don't want to dread a traffic warden, I'll smile at them and say hello. Or say hello to a policeman or a gendarme in France. Say hello to them. They're not a threat to me because I'm a good boy. I keep the law. Then do what is right and you will receive his approval and commendation. They're not a threat if we're living right and doing right things. For, this is verse 4, for he is God's servant for your good. He's there to protect you and he's there for your good. Now, all of these authorities are appointed by God. Civil authority, police, traffic wardens, magistrates. Now, in a lot of countries, they have nasty, deriding names, nasty names in the subject of police. I think in France they call them les flics, and it's a bad name. I don't use that word, but I'm just giving you an idea. Or the cops. Well, cops is not too bad, but they use rotten names for them and treat them badly and speak of them badly. We do not do that of civil authorities. They are in authority by God's appointment. Family authority, wives should be submitted to their husbands. See that in 1 Peter 3 verse 1, 1 Corinthians 11 verse 3. It's in the notes. Children should be orderly and obedient to their parents. If their parents tell them to do something, if it's not just totally unreasonable, you say, come on, darling, let's talk about this, but you must do this. You must brush your teeth. I don't want to brush my teeth. Well, you're going to do it because that's good for your mouth bacteria and so on. Explain it to them. Obey your parents. Family authority. Wives, don't be sassy against your husband. Give him respect. Social authority, our boss at work. You go in the office or wherever you work and the boss is grumpy. You're in submission to that boss. You're saying, well, he's had a difficult evening or whatever. His kids are playing up at home or whatever, but be respectful to your boss at work. And teachers at school, well, I know this. I've been a teacher for nearly 40 years, so I know about disrespect in school. I never have it. I squashed it as soon as it raised its ugly head. So social authority, bosses and teachers. And then in church, well, we don't have to take much notice of the people in church. Hebrews 13, verse 17, we should obey our spiritual leaders and submit to them, continually recognizing their authority over us. That's church authority. So the policeman who arrested you, or the pastor who told you off, or the magistrate that served you a fine, they were appointed by God. Our husbands, we should be, or if you're a wife, I haven't got a husband, thankfully. Our husbands should be respectfully obeyed. Oh, and I had a mother, and my mother, I respected my mum. I kept on looking after her until she was in her 90s, kept on visiting her, making sure her care home was looking after her. Your boss at work, your teachers in school, all of these are delegated authority, and we should be submissive to these forms of godly delegated authority. Our pastors, our deacons, our ushers. If at times we feel we're treated unfairly, accept the correction as part of our calling. It says in 1 Peter 2, just accept it humbly. 1 Peter 2, 13 to 21 is a good passage. These leaders are acting as God's delegated authority, and resisting them opens the door for the devil to attack you. See it like that. I don't want the doors open. I want to be spiritually protected. I don't want to be blind and deaf, as it says in Ezekiel 12 and verse 2, if we do these things. So let's learn to accept correction and chastisement, knowing it's good for our character. Hebrews 12, 3 to 11. Don't sulk, but thank God that he's treating you as his son or daughter.